in the way of today's society, let's just say, it's become to the point where so many people don't really want to work, but they want to have a job.
Yes, they want the pay and not to actually work.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? Do you
Cry.
Cry? You know that I've heard of that. I've heard of that.
After the tissue boxes have been exhausted.
Then some Xanax. No, I'm just kidding. I know. But
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Making Money Podcast. That's Pauline. I'm Benjamin Foss, and we're here to help you make more money and help you grow your business. And we have a couple awesome guests today, two wonderful ladies. We have return guest, Angela. Welcome back, Angela.
Hello.
And first-time guest, Sam. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
So demure.
So we're, I know, so demure, very mindful. We're in a very silly mood today, which is great because we're here to talk about one of maybe the not always most fun parts about business. We're talking about hiring, training staff, the process of building systems for training staff, and some experiences. And I really wanted to bring on Angela and Sam because Angela owns a dog walking business, as you would learn from the first podcast that she was on. Sam is her top manager. Very recently promoted.
Rah, rah, rah.
So, and I just realized you're wearing a Viore shirt after standing Viore real hard last time. So the standing continues.
the pants are also very, you just can't see them.
Yeah, there you go.
Very distinct. We are
Thank
liking
you.
this combo.
Yes,
Thanks,
The
Paul.
ensemble,
we are stylish and comfy.
If anyone ever needs compliments, you always go to Paul.
Yeah, this is so true. And if you want to be put down into your place, you want to see me for that as well.
Ooh.
Yes,
I'll send some
his
people
thing.
your way.
Yes, that is the new Paul. The new Paul is very honest and blunt.
Paul
Very
has a
demure.
sword dipped in honey.
Oh, I'm gonna use that.
Yeah.
Oh, so flavorful.
So demure, so mindful. So we all know that, like, you get to a point in business where you can't do everything yourself. You know, if your business is growing and you're taking on more customers and more clients, there's a point at which, and sometimes very early on, you need to bring on some help. You need to outsource and delegate some tasks. And then as you do that, eventually you need a manager to manage all the people you've delegated all the tasks to, which is kind of what you've done. But Angela, I want to go into some of the first hires that you made, or even the very first hire that you made. At what point did you decide to hire someone? How did that come about? Like, give us some background there, and when did this take place?
Okay, so assuming Uncle Sam doesn't listen to this podcast, so
This is all alleged.
follows my taxes. It's okay.
This is alleged.
So
Right.
I was first doing dog walking myself for like 6 months while overlapping unemployment in the pandemic, and so I
Allegedly.
The plandemic, we really meant.
Oh gosh.
Yes, they planned it. You accepted it, and
Oh God.
here is the blueprint.
This is not one of those podcasts, Paul.
It could be. But no, please continue.
Okay,
please.
and so the moment I actually officiated the business is when I went to hire an employee. And like I did it W-2 from the start because I discussed things with a business lawyer. I did a free consultation. I suggest anyone who asks me how to get employees, I'm like, listen, first talk to a free business lawyer. Like get a consultation or a paid consultation for like an hour or two and go ask all your questions. Because I can tell you what I did, but it's also just great to have some professional advice. Sorry, you looked like you were looking at something. Sorry. And so I did that. I got my first employee, and so I actually got it like the first week I initiated business.
Who was that? Lovely.
Yeah.
I bring this up because I remember this conversation. I just couldn't remember who the employee was. So that's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I structured pay different at that point, partially because I didn't have enough consistent work. So I paid per visit, per them performing the work.
Did you
instead of
1099?
No, I still did W-2.
Okay.
But instead of hourly, it was paid per walk or per visit, per whatever it was. And I mean, that burns through cash differently than like hourly does. But at the time, I mean, when you only have 10 visits to give a week, I mean, you can't really start paying hourly because it would be pennies for the employee.
So you were kind of trying to balance a pay structure that worked for the volume of your business at the time, but could still compensate M in a way that was actually would make sense for her. It'd be like, why would I take on this job if I'm only making $100 a week or whatever? You know, you got to do a little bit more than that. And then at what point did you sort of change? Like, what was the next step in that process with the pay structure with M? Like, how long did you keep that per visit?
Too long.
Too long.
So
was it to the point that when you switched to hourly, it ended up being a pay cut?
Slightly, like by a tiny bit, but then all the new hires were way lower. So
Okay.
like I averaged out how much based on like if I divide the number of hours they worked like in a shift based on how much I'm paying them per like walk, how much are they making on average per hour? And then it's like, okay, at that point it was like $18.50 or something like that, right? I was like, okay, if I kept them at $18.50, like some would be like $18.56 and you round down a little bit, right? Telling everyone you're going to switch to hourly, so you're getting paid for like driving in between visits, all these things. And then for the new hires, I'm like, great, 16. Like we're going to bump that down a couple bucks.
I'm going to go work for you. That's a steady paycheck, man.
Please do.
Well,
You'll be the best dressed one.
Paul will. He will. Well, and 16, you're basically just above minimum wage there, but which makes sense for...
Well, minimum wage is like 14 something in the area that like we work though.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah.
Denver's like
Yeah,
15.
Denver's
And that's for
18,
untipped
25
as
or
well.
something.
Yeah, 14 is for untipped.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not considered tipped though.
Really?
No, it has to be a certain percentage of the income comes from tips, something like that, because I
Okay.
read into it. Yeah.
Okay.
Total side note, I went to a restaurant the other day, and I won't name them because I'm not trying to talk shit, but they do a 20% service charge that's mandatory by default, even though I was by myself. It's not like it was a group. And then they want you to tip on top of that.
Yep.
And I was just like, no.
Yep.
Like, you just raise your prices if you have to raise your prices, but don't tell me, like, because then, like, a
You're
$20
double
meal
tipping.
becomes 24 plus tax, because next thing you know, we're spending $30 plus for one person when I
Correct.
thought I was spending 20. You know,
And, be very cognizant about that, because there's other fees that are being included, and this is a different topic, but, be very cognizant regardless of the type of industry you're attending, such as dog walking, restaurants, even at a tire shop. There are administrative fees all of a sudden added onto your bills that you would never have noticed.
oh, I bought, I don't remember what it was. I bought something online the other day, and they added a $3 trust and confidence fee. I was like, what the fuck is a trust and confidence
Yeah.
fee?
Exactly. And
If I don't pay that, do you scam me? Is like, how does that work?
Yep. And so you can arguably ask those fees to be removed, because those are hidden fees that are not explained to you at the time of purchase. They're explained to you after time of purchase. So by law, you need to be explained additional fees outside of what you have paid for it to actually be legitimate. Otherwise, it's a bait and switch.
Interesting.
Yeah, just some food for thought. We're going through a lot of this with some of my clients right now. They've been challenged, and I've looked into it, and it's arguable. But if you bring an attorney in, they will easily wipe any kind of fees you want away from those bills, and because a lot of times they're repeatable things that you're purchasing or places that you're going. But let's return back to
I know,
Angela
we
here,
got sidetracked.
because I can absolutely go on this for a long time. But I'm curious, Angela, how do you pick your employee? I mean, what are you looking for?
Sam, what are we looking for?
Sam.
Yeah, let's hear from Sam,
Okay, wait. just-
GM extraordinaire.
Yes, I would like to preface this though, that something Sam and I have discussed is that she was very excited for the hiring part of this position, and then admittedly said it is one of the hardest parts since kicking her ass, because humans are hard.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're much harder than the dogs
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
and cats.
Yeah.
them too.
So what was the question?
Who we look for?
Who do you look
Oh.
for? How do you find it? Looking and finding and and actually, how do you keep them? That's the better
All
question.
very different questions.
All three of those rolled
Yeah.
into one question.
That's a great question. We're still trying to find the answer to that. What we look for. I was talking to Angela a couple weeks ago. And it was actually this past week. Trying to think about who we want to hire for longevity purposes. And we talked about how there's not one specific type of person that we look for that kind of fits the bill of what the perfect employee would be, who we think would have the most longevity, because you just can't say, really, because a lot of people lie about,
They sure
if they
do.
want to stay, what they want, if they want this job, a lot of other things. So I can't really say what the perfect person is. But
We had conversations though of like, okay, is it someone who's like, we can't be ageist, but like, is it someone who's like over 45 ends up working out better, or someone who like lives alone or lives with a partner, like going through like demographics, and like we might think we have someone, and then like 2 weeks later we're like, that demographic just isn't working like on our team right now, like because we have a very wide range of people, and we hire them thinking they're going to be amazing fits, right? And then either they lied about what they actually really want, they can't do math, so they think we're not paying them correctly.
they can't do the job.
They can't do the job, yeah. Like one person couldn't actually walk.
Well, several people on our team had issues with walking the dogs, and it's
That's
like,
true.
well, that's
Yeah,
half the
that's
job
true.
description. It's a dog walking and pet sitting job.
They wouldn't
you
walk the
know?
dogs.
That's,
yeah.
that's horrific because my dogs don't go for walks. They're like their dad. I'm just being honest. They like to eat, they like to rest, and they work hard because they keep an eye on the house from afar. And then if you get in their space, they'll come after you. I'm just kidding. But no, I'm very curious because in the way of today's society, let's just say, it's become to the point where so many people don't really want to work, but they want to have a job.
Yes, they want the pay and not to actually work.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? Do you
Cry.
cry? I've heard of that. I've heard of
So
that.
after the tissue boxes have been exhausted,
Then some Xanax. No, I'm just kidding. I know. But
What do you do? I mean, in all honesty, I go through the same thing, and I'm just curious. Every time I talk with somebody about this, I get the same answer. I really don't know, and it seems like it doesn't matter what the industry is.
well, I want to ask something because you said you have a wide range of people. Have you noticed any particular age group or generation that you're having more issues with than others?
I would have said yes a year ago. And then now that we're in this massive growth time, which we talked about last time on the podcast, right? And like this year, that growth is not slowing down. So we're doing bigger groups of not bigger groups of hiring, but we're hiring a lot more people and expanding the team. And so what I thought worked before, maybe I just had luck with that certain demographic because now that demographic doesn't work. So like I used to think this is a great style candidate of person, and it's like that's thrown out the window as of the last 6 months.
Right, so you're looking for the patterns of like, okay, here's my best employees. What's common
Yeah.
between them? I think it's this. Oh, it's not that.
Yeah.
Now I'm back to square one.
Yes.
And you're just kind of going through that process. And but that is kind of what you need to do though, right? Is like you got to look for the commonalities. Like, hey, what are the things that most often make the best employees, and try to. And sometimes you think you have it, and then that's why we have to test, right? And then you don't have it. One thing that was interesting is the founder of ButcherBox was interviewed, and he talked about his best employees, and Alex Hormozy, who was interviewing him, echoed the same thing, said that their best employees were either young and hungry or toward the end of their careers and just wanting to contribute to something. Which now we're talking more like higher level positions than just dog walker, but they said the careerists in the middle are the ones they have the most issues with because they want a job based on how it looks on the resume and the benefits and this and that. Like it's like a calculation on a spreadsheet for them.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
I think it's based upon their wants and needs, and not the employers anymore. That
Oh,
demographic.
correct. Oh, they come with
Yeah.
demands.
Because they come in and they really want to have a job, job, literally a job. That's all it is, and they want to have it on a silver platter. I don't even know what to say. And I'm just thinking, you're in a great service industry. And I use Angela. Amazing, everybody. Absolutely amazing. I am like 3,000 miles away on another coast, and I get these videos on my phone. I even get like pictures on a website just promoting their business. But we'll get back to the matter at hand.
Wild
here.
Paws, Colorado.
Yes, exactly.
Wild Paws, Colorado.
But tell me about, what do you do when you have that situation where you have that employee that you've hired, and now they're X amount of time into this. What is the next step? Because now they're not really fitting your culture. What do you do? How do you address it?
We let them go.
I figured
in
so.
simple terms, yeah. But what we talked about this several months ago when we began hiring multiple people at once, and it's even with employees who have been with the company, the longest, like a year, we have to be okay with letting them go, even if they have done great things for the company and have been there for X amount of time. It's not worth it to have someone who isn't contributing rather than trying to hire someone new and hoping you'll find something different.
And we do try, though, to like have a conversation, right? To like have the grace. Let's see if we can come to a solution. You can like get better. And if you can't get better, you're hurting the brand. Like let's part ways, right? And something we found was that Sam transitioned into the general manager role in December, and there's a few bad nuts on the team who actually really didn't like being held accountable. And now when I was trying to do it all, it was harder to hold every tiny little thing accountable because there's just a lot to juggle, right? So like one of the biggest parts of Sam's role is like ensuring X, Y, and Z is done by everyone, including like walking distance and this and that. And like we had someone quit last month who at that point had worked for us for a year and a half because I told her we have to have a conversation about her not actually walking the dogs. Ooh. And instead she quit 18 minutes before her shift. No. And she was mid-50s.
No.
And someone who worked for us for a year and a half, we thought we had this great relationship. And in the end, she didn't want to be held accountable. She also came late all the time. And like, she told Sam and I she'd be doing better. She wasn't doing better. And like, in the end, she did not like being held accountable.
How do you have a pool of candidates already set up before you let this person go? What kind of planning is there before this person is terminated? Or is there any planning? Is it just...
Well, we try to plan as best we can, but, a handful of times things like this happen where people just quit on the spot. And then because we're looking to hire people in larger groups, right now we are looking for more staff. So when people quit or when we fire people, that work largely falls on us. So... That's why we're trying to hire a larger amount of people so we can disperse the work if one person leaves. And it's a lot easier to deal with that rather than, on the spot, someone leaving and it's frantic. But
I have two things to this. So the first is that I don't remember the exact question Sam asked me, but when I was early on training her in the position, I think it was something along the lines of, what's the hardest thing or the most difficult thing? And I said, when I don't feel that I have the power to fire someone because we're short-staffed.
Yeah.
It is, it's so painful.
It is.
And like they went through all their chances, they got to go, and you just feel backed into a corner. And what we've been trying to do is like build that buffer of having extra people and over hiring so that like we don't feel we're pushed into that corner. And the second note is that I started Wild Paws thinking I can be a little different than the vast majority of the industry with how I hire. And I have come to the conclusion through like talks with Sam, talks with other people in the industry that like I don't get to be different in the fact that like I thought if I have less people and they work longer hours, they're going to stay and they're going to be committed. And it's just biting me in the ass over and over. And now it's biting Sam because I set up the company this way. And so we're actually working on this transition of what if people have less hours and we double our employee pool? Like, because that's how most companies at our size have 25 employees and we have 12.
Really?
Yes, most have 25 and we have 12.
I love it.
So it's going to be just mostly part-time then.
They already are part-time.
The 12 are.
The 12 are.
And they can't handle that.
Correct.
So you're going to have 25 part-time.
Well, right now we are overloaded, right? Like Sam and I shouldn't be in the field.
Right.
We're working one employee a little too much, and like maybe a couple others who like would love to like take a step back anyway of how many
Right.
hours. And so like they will feel relief, and we don't plan to stop growing. So like we want to fill more bodies anyway.
Sure.
And we don't want to just hire anybody, right? So like we're still being like as picky as possible, like with the candidates. And as Sam said, like people lie, right? They lie about like how long they want the job, or they lie about like, oh, I can walk 9 miles a day and I love being with energetic dogs, or like, yeah.
I think a lot of times now we have employees out there that are potential hires or whatever you want to call it. They make themselves look more glorified than they really are, and it makes us feel that they're the candidate we want. And our turnover rate is so high because our expectation of these people are because what they presented, and it makes it very difficult. And I don't know. The question I'm trying to ask is, I don't know how you actually even sift through all these candidates, because I'm sure they all give you this great tale. You know, what is a way to, you know, magnify how you guys interview, or what is a way that you guys have talked about? How do we even sift through these without going through and hiring, training, and then they leave in 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
I think another interesting question to bounce off that to Sam would be like, because she does first round of interviews and we do second round together. I'd be curious to know, what is like the most commonly answered question that gives you the red flag to not want to invite someone back?
Good question.
I would say it's not just one question, but the way in which they answer the questions. You know, when I first began interviewing people 2 weeks after I started this position, not knowing a thing about interviewing people, quickly learned, is that a lot of the time people will just tell you what you want to hear. Answers to the questions like, are you comfortable walking a dog in any type of weather? If people are immediately like, yes, next question. Or do you prefer cats or dogs? I love both. Do you like big dogs or small dogs? I love both. And you ask them to pick and they don't. Or if you say, actually, walking dogs in a snowstorm it's so shitty, and we can be honest about that. But when people answer these questions in a way that seems like they're trying to appease me, immediately I'm like, I don't want to continue this interview at all.
I like that, because so many times it's what we want to hear, and I feel desperate at times when I'm hiring, and I feel, oh my gosh, this is the perfect person because they love everything I want them to do. and then I hire them, and it's like they're the worst person. They don't want to do anything.
You saw the mirage in the desert and went right for it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the smart things that, Angela, you're talking about, which is if you have a larger number of employees, then if you have someone quit or you need to let someone go, then you're not as worried about being understaffed or, you know, oh, I need this person or whatever. You can have more people to spread that workload to, which is really helpful. And that helps keep you from that situation that Paul's talking about, where you're desperate and then you start making bad decisions because you're desperate, which is really like, as a business owner, you never want to be in that place, because like we never make good decisions as human beings when we're desperate.
Yeah. And to clarify too, for any of like the listeners, it's a very entry level position. And like, I feel like maybe this is just me being a little pessimistic, that I had to come to terms with entry-level positions. It is going to be rare to get someone super dedicated, and I have to be okay with turnover. Because they're not looking for a career, right? Just like you said, Paul, like a JOB, they're looking for a job. Yep. They are not looking for a career. They actually don't want one.
No, I would have to agree.
You know?
It's a passerby, or what they call floaters.
Yeah.
It's a float me by job.
Yes. Yeah. And like we just had someone a couple weeks ago quit, and we thought she was doing phenomenal. Quit out of the blue. And then Sam and I had to have this conversation with each other of like, oh, we were just the in-between job. And we have to we have to accept that, because Sam was like, what could we have done differently? And I'm like, honestly, I don't think anything.
Have you thought about whether the entry level pay contributes to some of that turnover? Because like, do you guys like, how does your pay? Because I'm thinking like, hey, how do you guys compare to other entry level, like fast food,
Yeah.
things like that? I don't know. Like, I haven't. It was a long time ago that I worked at Chick-fil-A. My first
Chick-fil-A.
hourly wage was $7.25 an hour
Really?
in
Praise
2000 and.
Praise be the chicken.
It's the Lord's chicken.
The chicken.
It's the Lord's chicken. But yeah, $7.25 an hour in 2008.
Don't age yourself.
I know I feel old now.
Sam wasn't
but-
born. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But no, I mean, I'm just curious if that is something you have put into consideration, because I have heard, a lot of business owners talk about how they, in order to keep good employees, they end up having to pay above market because the good ones won't stay otherwise.
Yeah. I think that might be true if like it wasn't also a tipped position, and like it's not tipped in the sense of like it's like your server, right? So like it doesn't fall in the
Right.
category of us being able to like pay $12 an hour or something like that. But I mean, our team members average like $3 to $4 an hour in tips.
If not more.
Yeah. And like what's interesting though is like we have people who like our longest employee has been here for like 3.5 years, but she had to take a little break because her mom was going through like cancer and she was the caregiver for her mother.
That's rough.
And like she's never like had a complaint. We have like other folks who have like never complained about like the money side, but I also think they're not relying on it for income, right? It's like supplemental and they really enjoy doing it versus someone who needs the funds. And like Sam and I went through this today with a team member where she's telling us she can't get to the visits tomorrow morning because she has no gas money. And I literally calculated how much we paid in the last 2 weeks because the check deposits this week, $350. She's telling me she has to fill up her gas tank twice a week to work for us. And I calculated she drove 79 miles in 2 weeks. 79 miles. You know what that is? 2.5 gallons of gas. Tell me how you fill up your gas tank twice a week on a Wild Paws. You don't. But
I
like
was going to say.
yeah, people have a misconception, right? Like their own poor budgeting skills is
moped.
not my fucking fault.
Thank you. I tell that to my employees all the time. Literally.
Yeah.
So this is actually a great point, though. I'm wondering, do you know for most of your employees, is this their second/third job? This is a side hustle, a primary, like where in terms of in their life and in their like total income, where do you fall into that picture?
I think all except for one, it is their only job. Yeah. Now a couple are in school, but all
Okay.
but one, it's their only job.
Okay.
And
is it like a full-time thing for them? Sorry.
No. It's just part time. But
Oh.
so like
I mean, if you're in school, part-time is all you can do, right? So that makes
Right.
sense.
yeah, well, and it's not high school, it's like college. So like you could do more, but still. But also like I mean, some people still live with family members. Okay. A couple people have spouses. You know.
So it could be supplemental income versus like your only source of income.
Yeah, and we're thinking just literally this past week of like, how can we start interviewing and like really asking people like, is this supplemental to you or like is this something you need to rely on? Like, and like maybe you can't or maybe
I think you have to dance around that like
Yeah.
in an ambiguous way so that you don't become discriminatory.
Totally,
Because some
yeah.
people could look at that and go, oh, you're not hiring me because this is my part-time gig and I don't need this for my real income. I don't know. I think
but like asking questions like, how much do you need to make? How much do you like? What's your preferred XYZ?
Yeah.
You know, and like
that's probably a better roundabout saying, what's your preferred income that you would like to be at versus, what is it you need to make? Dancing around the question,
What
make
are
it a
your
little more,
bills?
a little more politically correct. I think,
Yeah, there's definitely hiring laws and things that we have to be
Yeah.
mindful of as business owners. And,
Yes.
there's, like, I remember when I got my LLC registered, or now S Corp registered with Colorado, they sent me this, like, piece of paper that, it's like, put this in your office. I'm like, well, it's just me, so,
I love
But
those,
but
yeah.
it's like that thing that's like the employee rights or whatever thing. So it's you just as you start getting into this, you learn more and more. It's like, oh, there's a lot of rules that I have to follow, and there's like big consequences of not following those. those rules. So you have, I kind of want to like circle back a little bit. So you hired M, then eventually transitioned to an hourly thing, and sounds like you had multiple people at that point. You transitioned to hourly. So how did you go about then when you were searching for? Actually, I want to do that later. I want to. Yeah, I was going to go to Sam and the GM thing, but I want to do that a little bit later because I'm trying to go somewhat sequentially here. So how have up to this point for your entry level positions? What has been your primary means of finding employees? Are you going on Indeed or like? And what are like? How have you? What has been your? Is it word of mouth? Like, how are you finding these people?
Indeed. So I tried a few things at first, right? Because at that point, years ago, there was actually a job board on Facebook as well.
Really?
It's not active anymore. Yeah, they took down like 23 or something like that. But there was a job board, so I posted there, and then I also posted in Facebook groups, and I posted on Indeed. And I was hoping anything kind of but Indeed would work, because I thought like maybe I'll find like passionate people, because like who's gonna look for dog walking positions on Indeed? Like, probably no one. But Indeed ended up being what brought everyone, like quite literally everybody, and like to this day still does. Now, granted, now we pay them a lot of money though, but
Indeed.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're advertising on there?
Yeah, so in October, they switched a lot of their terms, and so you pretty much don't get found unless you're paying. So we pay them in two ways. We pay them to look at people's resumes and invite them to apply, and we pay to sponsor our posts.
What does that cost?
So if you want to do looking at people's resumes and inviting them for 30 outreaches a month, so you can look at as many resumes as you want, but to outreach to them, 30 a month is 120. And then for sponsoring, you can choose your budget per day. And we typically do like 10 to 20 bucks a day for a week or 10 days per job post.
So you're probably looking at spending somewhere around $300 a month average.
More. We're about
More.
500 a month right now.
500.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's $6,000 a year, just
Yeah.
like that.
Just like that.
You know what's interesting
For
is
people who don't stay.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
Well, I heard
that discourages me now.
well, I heard something interesting recently. A business owner was being consulted by someone, and they were hiring for like their a bigger company for like hiring someone to help them hire more people, kind of a thing. And the person they were interviewing for that position said, "Well, like, what is your advertising budget for employees?" And then he's like, "We don't actually have one." And I never even thought about it. It's like, we advertise to your customers. We also have to advertise to fill positions, as quality people. And that's kind of what you're doing through Indeed. So I think that's kind of cool. But it's like, I love that reframe of thinking about it as part of the advertising budget.
Yeah.
Because in today's world, that's just kind of what you have to do, because there's, especially because you're not a brick and mortar or anything, right? So you're not going to, you don't have a window to put a now hiring sign in.
Yep.
So your online presence is all you got.
Absolutely. And
I'll give you a window.
thank you.
I got plenty of stores. You can take one, put it in there, bring some people, and
It
I'll
just
hire
says
them.
now hiring, but not for this place. Somewhere else.
Parentheses, Wild Paws. And with that, Sam keeps reminding me that I need to put an application like on our website, like build it in as a form for just like an extra way of like possibly getting eyes on it and like getting people interested, or like if someone goes to the website for whatever reason, they're like, oh, actually this would be like a great part-time job. So,
Yeah.
And that's like kind of marketing too.
Yeah, I think that's a
Potential
great
employees.
idea. So with that $500 a month that you're spending, roughly how many applicants are you getting?
Oh, do you know that?
About per posting, I mean, because we post several jobs at a time. So it's like
Yeah.
the Lone Tree position, Castle Rock, door hanger, team lead, 4. Maybe like 200, 250 between all 4 of those.
In a month.
Well, in a month. So during the time span, because like
Okay.
we'll only do each of those listings. We promote them for 7 to 10 days, and then the next one 7 to 10 days. Sometimes we overlap them.
Okay. And then of that 200 to 250, how many turn into interviews?
Ooh, a lot. I feel like your schedule. Okay, I should not say a lot, because out of 200, it's not considered a lot. But
Yes.
she gets a lot of interviews on the schedule.
Yeah.
Especially when
A
I go into
month?
panic mode.
Yeah.
I went to
No, that's good though.
Yeah, I went into panic mode a month ago. It was when the one gal left with like 18 minutes to spare, and I was like, you know what? We're gonna find fucking employees. I spent hours going through messaging these people. I think we hired 5 people.
I had like 10 interviews in a week.
Yeah.
Which is
I was
fine.
just loading them up.
That's a pretty good return if you think about it.
Yeah.
Usually you get less than 1 or 2% when you're.
Well,
doing
basically,
it
what I'm
fast
trying
like
to
that.
break down to is the numbers. Is like X amount of dollars. It means X amount of leads. We'll call them, to X amount of interviews, to X amount of hires, to X amount of good employees. Like, you know, to break down. Like, so basically, how much? So we have cost to acquire a customer.
Yeah.
What about cost to acquire an employee? You
I
know.
would love to find that number.
So I
That's
think
so
that would
interesting.
be really interesting to work out, because then you can think, if I want to get from 12 to 25, I want to have 13 employees. How much money do I have to spend to get there?
Yeah.
And then you can start working on that budget, and then think, and you know,
I love the idea.
Yeah, it's a
No,
planning
that's
tool.
awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So for all of you listening, cost to acquire.
But like, I want to
employee.
go like do with like the real numbers, like find the real numbers.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
super intrigued.
Yeah. So now let's transition to you, Sam. So tell us a little bit about how either one of you or both can answer about your journey and how you came to be in the GM position.
I want to hear from your perspective how this happened because I'm also curious.
Okay. So, ironically, in the last podcast that I was on with Ben and Paul, we were talking about the GM position because it was still theoretical, and I was like talking about like wanting to hire for it, things of that nature, and I think we might have discussed on the podcast of like, am I hiring within or with like outside of the company? And if I looked at the company, I wanted to find someone who I thought 2 things. This is going to sound a little odd. So one, I wanted someone who could critically think, right? That's not the odd part. Like, I want someone who can make a decision that would be similar to mine.
Like-mindedness.
Yes. Like, we can make a decision that is great for the company, great for the animals, great for the client. The odd part is I wanted someone who is semi-emotionally detached from the animals. And that's what sounds really odd.
For what reason?
So, yes, I would love to explain. So, if someone is the biggest animal lover, and we have lots of them on our teams, they will get so wrapped up into the crisis, right? If a dog is in a crisis, if something happened and their anxiety spikes, things like that, right? But if you have a slight not attachment to all the animals, then you are able to process the deaths easier, and you can like lead the team in that. You can process the emergencies easier, and you can lead the team in that. You have the ability to like emotionally distance yourself, and I think that takes emotional intelligence. And so like if I looked at the team that we had, it was either Sam or an outside source. Like an outside, by outside source I mean outside of Wild Paws. So ironically, I actually invited Sam to a lunch, asked her about the position, and she told me, I'll get back to you. And I was like, did I just get denied? And so I was like, okay, but like if you don't get back to me in like, I think it was like 2 days or something, I was like, I'm going to post it on Indeed, and and even if you come back to me, I'm going to interview other people, right? Like you have like 2 days to take
That's
it.
fair.
Yeah. So she didn't take it. So then I posted on Indeed and actually interviewed other people. And then came back to Sam.
Well, I think that shows that your choice was based upon a real skill set that you wanted, you know, versus someone presenting the skill set to you, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, this is a perfect fit because they fit the mold of everything I wanted.
Yeah.
But you chose within, and the opportunity arose, and then she didn't really deny you. She just took her time, we're just going to say, right?
So Sam, I want to hear that from your perspective.
Okay. Yeah, that is all true. It did happen that way. I had just graduated in May. I got my master's in public affairs, so I was looking for a government job. I told Angela when I was working part-time that I wanted to work in government. And I was actually in Iowa for an interview, and she called me while I was in the interview, and then I saw it after I was done, and I called her back, and she was like, hey, I was thinking about this position. Like, do you want to be the general manager of Wild Paws? And I'm like, what?
Well, I asked if you want to get lunch over it.
yes. But I'm like, okay, this is a job offer, and I have none right now. But also, I just interviewed for this position that it's something that I thought I wanted to do. So we got lunch, and then I was also waiting to hear back from this interview. So that's why I took my time. I was waiting to hear back, to be honest with you, because I wanted to weigh my options, and I also wanted to make sure this is something that I wanted to do. I told Angela when she offered me the position and when I accepted this, I'm going to put 100% of my effort into this. I'm not going to go into something half-assed or be in a job that I don't like. And
if there's one thing I can say about Sam's work ethic, is that is not a lie. Like, something so incredible is that you can tell she puts 100% in. Like, wildly so. Like, I am shocked. Like, despite the, like, cool, it's a salary position and like it's a official title or things like that, I am still shocked someone puts in that much effort.
That's great.
I mean, I didn't take the position. I wouldn't have taken the position if this business and you is like something that I didn't believe in. I think so many people want to be entrepreneurs and have a successful business. It's such a fun idea, But to see you do that and succeed, it was like, this is something I want to be a part of as well.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So I wanted to work hard at doing that. So that's why ultimately I accepted. Yeah.
Yeah, Angela's easy to believe in.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the high energy is contagious. Yeah, I love it. I love that. And I think that's a great lesson though for founders, is that like your employees are watching you and they're paying attention. They're watching like your energy, your focus, your determination, and the right people will feed off of that. And winners want to work with other winners. A players want to work with other A players. And one of the things that I think is good of you guys being willing to move on from people is, I think that's an essential part of trying to maintain a culture. Because you're trying to create a company culture is a certain way. And, the C and the D players will turn the A players into C and D players faster than the A players will turn the C and D players into A players. And unfortunately, it's just the way, it's just gravity, right?
It is.
It's all downward momentum that you have to fight. But like between like your contagious energy that you bring to the table and your willingness to move on from people and be diligent about like, no, this is the standard. I think that's an essential part for success, especially when you, like you said, you're dealing with low entry level positions, don't pay super well. It's hard. That's why like fast food is like one of the highest, if not the highest turnover rate of any type of job.
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing that you're battling there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you set precedence when you put all these standards that you've had in place, and then you realize that, okay, I need to kind of modify them to today, because, coming from COVID to now, there's been so many changes, and you have to set the precedence of, okay, we are in this time, and this is my expectation, and you shouldn't take anything less. And I love it. It's kind of like when we have our conversations, when we have our quarterly meetings. There's an expectation that this is going to get done by Paul, and I have an expectation Angela's going to give me this. And we've hired each other. I mean, I've hired her as my dog, taking care of what dog
like a dog
sitting.
sitter.
I don't know,
Yeah.
dog sitting, right? And she's hired me for accounting services, and it really is a great blend. Because we do bounce off of each other quite a bit. And I love seeing the energy. It is contagious, Ben, like 100% agree, high-level energy. This is like my only real time that I've actually met Sam in person. I've only seen from the postings, so I've never actually saw her in person.
Reels.
It's the real deal.
Where Angela's dancing with the dog.
Yes. Angela's dancing with the dogs. So, I love the symbiotic relationship that you guys have. We don't see that. I don't see that quite frequently when I have my staff with me. There definitely isn't a whole lot of symbiotic relationship. and that's not in all my businesses, but definitely in two of my businesses, for sure. And my employees know that. They know that this is a 9 to 5 or 9 to whatever, and they're just getting by, and they know that this is a paycheck because they don't see the next level beyond it. And I want to hear from Angela. Actually, what is the next move now that you've got a GM in place? You're in place. What does it look like for the future of Wild Paws?
Ooh, so Sam and I have created a new position. So we're adding another level of management in between Sam and the entry level team members, and we're going to do team leads because Sam is being pulled in a little too much. Well, not a little too much. Her time is being dedicated to answering questions a little too frequently to where she can't do as much high level things that A, she would like, B, I would like, and that like she was originally hired for. And so we're creating a new level of management, and we just started training our first one. We moved him up actually because he has a great skill set for it. And so we're adding another layer in hopes to alleviate Sam's workload.
I
Nice.
love it. Let's
Oh,
talk
so
about
this is the second time you've been able to
Yes.
promote from within.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what
Which
I was
is
about
pretty
to
cool.
just say the same thing. Let's talk about this promoting within. We think alike a lot of times when it bounces off on these things because I'm like, I'm about to say it and Ben sends it. I love it. But promoting within is another great topic, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time within this whole admin stuff, but it gets my juices going because I love to see how other individuals who are entrepreneurs grow their companies. I don't think a lot of people see the realities of what it is to grow a company, and it's not just so I got to put an ad in, I got to get somebody in, but if you have the skill sets within, I want to hear about it. I'd love our listeners to hear about how these skill sets do you mold them into this, or do you just see it that they're innately able to do this? How does that happen within?
You want to answer that?
For our staff member currently,
Yeah.
I think it's more of seeing their skill set and realizing that they could take on more responsibility, but it's also molding them to do so throughout training, and then also before offering them this position, thinking about what that would look like for them and seeing their work ethic without knowing that we're thinking about transitioning them into this new role. I don't know.
Yeah, something that I would have my eye out for is a willingness to like jump in, which like goes into like being flexible, being a team player, like a general willingness, a like timeliness and like dedication per the entry level position, right? You can only get so much dedication, but like you show up, you do a good job, you have a great attitude, which it's so funny because like if you would have told me this 4 years ago, I'm like, isn't that the bare minimum? But like, yo, that's management now. But like looking for someone who seems like they are dedicated enough that they're willing to not only take on more like Sam said, but they're willing to like do the odds and ends thing. So like one of our things is that Sam and I hate keys. We have clients who give us keys. And then if they're on vacation, we have to go put a lockbox with the key on it. It is such an administrative headache. And there are times that we're driving around and we go, oh no, we start this in 2 hours and I have the key on me. And like this person that we're gonna like move, that we have promoted, I mean, so many times has he like came to me and got a key, or like he's like, yeah, no problem, add it to the end of my shift. Like I'll go grab that lockbox, I'll put it on. Like, it's the little above and beyonds that like add to this positive bucket of like, yeah, sure, you still make mistakes, and overall you are way a net positive. Like
That's great. I think positive attitude to a tiresome adventure, that's what I'm going to call it, because I could totally see this happening. It really equates to actually good qualities in a person. And the willingness is huge. It's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge.
But I would think for those who are listening, take this as like proof that like when you go above and beyond, like people notice, like the people
Yeah.
above you notice, at least in like the good companies. And you, by being able to promote from within 2 times now, are kind of setting a precedent and showing the other employees like this is a growing company and there's room for upward momentum in this company. You can be part of something as it grows, help it grow, which is not only exciting, but it also is room for pay increases and things like that as time goes on. So that goes back to the culture thing too, right? Of you're setting a precedent for hard work and dedication, the positive attitude, all the things you mentioned, that gets seen and it's rewarded. And that, I think, is a huge factor in trying to create the kind of company that you're trying to build.
Yeah, we're excited for the new position.
Definitely.
Really want to hire 4 more people like that.
I'm gonna apply. I have good attitude and I'm enthusiastic, and I'm gonna apply. You want me?
I do.
Yes, you do, and I want to be there.
And you're an early riser. I know you'll
I-
always hit the morning
I will
visits.
always hit the point. Whether I actually go walk the dog is another question. I will be at work though, but walking the dog is that's the question. But you want me?
He's already setting his terms. You see
yeah.
that?
I'm one of this generation. It's
Oh my
my terms or
gosh.
nothing. But you want me. Willingness. No, but honestly, you guys have been amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I think the enlightenment of this particular service industry versus a product industry is 2 different things.
Very
Absolutely.
different. So what would you say, to someone who is growing their business, trying to learn how to hire? What are some of, and both of you can answer this. What are some of the top 2 or 3 lessons that you've learned, or things that you have, your battle scars, both positive and negative? What are some of the things that you've learned throughout the hiring process?
Do you have one?
I have several.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, let's hear it.
First one, we've already mentioned that everyone lies at some point during the interview process. Or
To get the job.
Onboarding, when they're training, things like that. So just be extra wary and don't be too trusting of every single person, because not every single person is a great person. Second one is escaping me right now.
Yeah, to go off the being wary, I think there's also a level of not taking it personally.
That's what I
Like-
was going to say.
Yeah. And it's so hard to do. And like Angela, year 1 through 3 of Wild Paws took it all personally. Year 4 and
understandable.
4.5, we are not. Because in the end, people are peopling. And they were always going to people. And like, it does not reflect on me. Now it could, right? There still has to be a self-awareness of, okay, if I look at this employee who either I fired or has recently quit, what was their onboarding situation like? Did I see these red flags of why they quit or why they were fired in the interview? If all of that checks, like, no, and like they were greenlit the whole time, okay, the person was being a person and either lied or truly just didn't want the job, or like they thought it was too hard, and I cannot take that on emotionally anymore. Like, it is not about me. In the end, it is about them.
I think part of that as well is, not taking it personally is like part of it, but also last week when someone quit, Angela called me and she was like, "How are you doing?" I said, "I just cried in my car. I'm not good." And she, I kind of did take it personally, yes, because we really liked this person, but
They did
also,
great work, too.
Yeah, I started to rely on her and thought that I saw long-term potential, but that's never something that you can rely on in an employee, especially in a part-time position, and especially, even from what I've seen since December 1st, since I began this position, is that, like, turnover is going to happen regardless. So relying on someone is just not the way to go, which is also very pessimistic, but it's, like, kind of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've learned, because I have an employee now that is I've learned how, man, people just operate differently and they think differently. And like,
Yeah.
I am such a natural problem solver that I just don't even think about it. I just go, like, I go from problem to working towards solution so fast that, and not everyone's like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people have problem and then freeze. and then like need help. Or, you know, like I had one time where this employee was like, I was driving to a job and they knew that, and they were like working remote with the report writing side. And they said, "Oh, the computer's giving an error," and I was like, "Well, have you tried restarting it yet?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Why have you called me?" Like, everyone knows the first thing you do is turn it off and turn it back on again, you know. But I'm realizing it's like, oh, the things that are obvious to me are not obvious to everyone else, and the things that I need to put in my own employee manual. It's like, it's such a daunting task. Or like our mutual friend Sarah Ackerman likes to say, "Oh, feels heavy." That feels like really heavy to me. It's a fucking elephant on my back. Like, I had to write an employee manual. But this is something that you did earlier this year. You came up with a little bit of a handbook.
Yeah, we did it together.
You
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about the process of developing that, and then how it's going. Like, you know,
We
I'm
need to
sure,
redo
there's revising, right, that has
Yeah.
to take place. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about the development of that handbook and how did it go?
So it was on my mind for years, and then it didn't happen until Sam came into place and we needed more structure, right? Like, the hiring of Sam in this position was to provide structure and accountability, because I just can't juggle all the plates efficiently. And so I think the first part was done with ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah. Like, so I asked, so I got an outline from someone from like an HR position somewhere else. And I was like, what are like the table of contents? And then I asked ChatGPT each table of contents to write this per Wild Paws. It was not good. And it gave us a great starting point, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, because it had, you know, the accessibility information in there. It had like, you know, different law things, and then it got like a lot wrong, but it gave us a great starting point. One of the things that I really wanted was to make it look fun. So I spent a lot of time designing like something that was really fun to look at, because I really wanted people to read it, whether or not they do. I wanted them to, and if we're going to, in our new training system that we have, we spend a whole hour going through it. And so if we're sitting there flipping through it, at least it is something pretty to look at. Like, I mean, it is fun content.
I've seen it. It's pretty cool looking.
Yeah. And I think Sam can speak to, like, we need to revise like parts of it, especially like with our point system, which was something that was created during the time of creating the handbook of, you know, having more accountability and like, what does that look like? And we got it wrong. We tried.
Yeah.
We thought essentially what we got wrong was the assignment of how many points per issue. And then quickly we were like, gosh, someone could get fired in a week. Like, hang on. Like, should we do it per category? Like, should we change the amount of points? And so our handbook isn't like the most up to date with like how we do that. I think the rest of it though like really stands well. And in it also we have like contracts. So now we have people sign like non-solicitation contracts, as well as like not divulging client information.
Confidentiality.
Yeah, confidentiality.
The solicitation thing is one of those important things that we may overlook for a long time. It's like, oh, someone could use this to like advertise their other thing. You know.
And I literally, someone has like on the team years ago asked me if they could leave a card to clean someone's house. It was this client was a single mom of a young child, and her house was always a mess. I mean, how could it not be? I mean, right? Like, has a toddler running around. She's a single mom, like, whatever. And this employee asked me if she could leave cleaning info to get hired to clean her house. And I was like, that is so insulting.
Yep.
Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
100% agreed.
And so we give that example when we tell people, because people are looking at us like, who would ever solicit? And I'm like, it's happened. And then it also recently happened because one of our current staff members can turn ashes into things. Like, if your pet passed away, she can like make ashes into like different like memorabilia things. And solicited it to a client whose dog passed away, which can be seen as like, not to that particular employee does not seem insensitive, but to the client can, right? And it's like
trying to make money off of you while you have a deceased
You're
pet.
grieving.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, non-solicitations. Sometimes you think, I don't need it. My people are great. And you're like, and they think they have great intentions.
They don't think past the what could happen if. And
Yeah.
that big if is, what if it goes back to Angela? Or it comes back
Yeah.
to you know, at Sam was like, well, how do we address this now? Because now this has become more a one-time thing. Now it's a consistent thing. What do you
Yeah.
do then?
And
You
it's
know?
tacky for the brand.
It is. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had employees do the same thing, thinking, I'm going to start my own business, and they don't realize that the backlash you can get from that is huge.
Yeah.
I would not be happy if like someone left like my cleaning ladies left a lawn care service brochure on my kitchen counter or something.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I get enough of that shit at my front door. I don't need that in my house too.
Yeah.
And you get people knocking on the door and stuff, even though you've got a no soliciting sign, they do it anyway.
They still do it. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good call on your part there. So what are aside from the point system, are there any other things that you're like, version 1.1 or 2.0 of this handbook we got to revise?
What do you think?
I think it's the way in which we present it. And when I say we, I mean me. Just make it
You
a
want to
little
talk
more...
about nurture?
Yes. Yeah, so, I was asking Angela, I'm like, we have this conversation frequently about turnover, and I'm like, am I doing something wrong when training people? And she was like, well, present the handbook to me. Let's see. I flip through the first page, and I just start reading it. She's like, no, stop. Have you ever taken a public speaking class? I'm like, no. And she's like, oh, you should look into that. We went through page by page, every single page. I did it. And then she's like, that's wrong.
I said it's wrong. I said, would you like to see how I would do it?
And yeah. And so every page we went through, I did it, she did it. And I told her, I was like, this feels like I'm putting on an act or a show. And she's like, that's exactly what it should be. Why are you so monotone? So I would say, yeah, the way in which I present it to our new staff, and then largely the point system, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What went well? Like, what's worked really well with the handbook?
First off, having it.
Yeah.
I think it provides credibility to the new team members that, like, we're not a shit show. Like, we have an established company and we have, like, systems and processes.
And expectations.
Yeah, and expectations.
Is it laminated?
The front cover is.
It's
always
binded.
It's
It's
binded.
very
It's so
nice.
much more official when it's laminated.
Yeah, but the cost of that is wild when you're trying to get 25 employees.
Ooh, and 25 manuals back.
Oh, yeah.
But
They already cost $25 each one.
You can always use my machines.
Can I, Paul?
You
Because I am
can.
spending so much money on these.
Because you know how to get to my home and get into my home. You know this, right?
just gonna walk right into
24/7.
your
Oh.
Even
Well-
with the midnight phone call and text, is everything okay?
Well, speaking of dogs, my dog's getting a little angsty in her crate. And we've been over an hour now, so I don't want to keep you all too long. But
Why is
thank
she
you all.
locked up?
Huh?
Why is she locked up?
So she doesn't get in the way of the podcast.
Aw.
'Cause she gets in frame and she starts like trying to get attention while
This is the
people
only
are
one you
talking.
should have brought her on.
I know. I could have had the Wild
you
Paws
could
on.
have the Wild Paws crew. That would have been a good show.
Yeah.
Next time.
Now it's bad.
Well,
Science
no one
meets
will want
Wild
to
Paws.
listen to this. Well, actually, I have like a thought or experiment I'm going to try because we're working on finishing my basement to make it like a proper studio. And at that point, we'll give her like free room and she could just be the podcast dog.
That's cute.
That would be.
Have you ever heard of Crime Junkies?
No.
Okay, so have you?
Yes.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
Okay, so they're Audio Chuck Productions. So Audio Chuck Productions. Chuck is the dog's name, and at the end it howls. Like it's like Audio Chuck Production. And like
You did that really good.
go listen. It was very accurate. But yeah, it literally like they mention the dog at times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
we're
like
gonna
feel
have
good
a
stories at the end
I
about
know
dogs.
that.
we're
So
gonna
it's
have a
great.
podcast
Yeah,
dog.
you can
Making
totally
money
brand it
doing
off
this.
that.
You totally can, and whatever other animal you want to bring on.
Sure. Maybe Apollo will make an appearance.
I think that might be a good idea.
Awesome.
I'll
Well,
take an
thank you.
allergy pill at that point.
There, yeah, I know.
My eyes
Allergies
are a little
a
bothering
thing.
me today, but it's okay.
Well, Angela, Sam, thank you both, lovely ladies, for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom and all your experiences and your stories with us and being so honest and vulnerable. Like, this is entrepreneurship, man. You're building businesses, making mistakes, learning fast.
Crying in
and
cars.
Crying in cars.
Crying in cars, exactly. And
I'm pretty sure
leaving
that's the name of a
people on
song.
hold.
Country one.
Yeah, probably. I saw a hilarious meme the other day where it said, like, with the rise of AI and like self-driving vehicles, it's only a matter of time before there's someone writes a country song about their truck leaving them.
That's funny.
We have got to do it. We have got to do it.
Are you gonna sing it?
I can. You know, I used to be a singer.
No, I didn't.
Yes, that's what I went to school for originally before any of all this craziness.
Wow.
Yes.
Learn something new every week with Paul.
I know.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening or for watching. We want to hear from you. What have been your experiences hiring and training employees, and what are the lessons you've learned? And we will see you in the next one.